on Monday, September 15th, 2025 at 5:15 p.m. in the Historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting work sessions on Serve Dubuque and Imagine Dubuque.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a special session of the Dubuque City Council for September 15th, 2025. As a reminder to viewers and listeners, due to the nature of tonight's meeting topic, public input is not accepted. However, you may contact the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/council contacts. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh?
Here.
Council members Farber?
Here.
Jones?
Here.
Resnick?
Here.
Roussel?
Here.
Sprank?
Here.
Wethel? Here. City Manager Van Milligan?
Here.
And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you. Our first work session topic is the Serve Dubuque update. I will turn it over to Community Impact Director Antonio Mozan.
Hello, everyone. Council. I oftentimes get filled with gratitude when I get to share the good work that our department gets to do in this community. In a world where at times we have gloomy days, I am constantly reminded of the joy, the humanity, and the light that we get to pour into our community with our community members. Over the past year, as you all know, we've been developing a brand new department, and this Serve Dubuque initiative speaks volumes into what our mission is all about. People, programs, partnerships, and opportunities. The partnerships between the city and the nonprofit organization Multicultural Family Center, the people and expanded capacity through our AmeriCorps program, the programs with our Fine and Fee Reform Initiative, and the opportunities that we get to provide to our adults, our teens, and our families. As you all know, we went through a season of ups and downs with AmeriCorps, and we had to make some pretty tough decisions. Well, through those transitions, we decided to address the need and the gap that our funding caused with our teen programming. And through the work of our AmeriCorps program director, along with our MFC director, and our nonprofit board of directors at the MFC, came the birth of Serve Dubuque. Again, this is the outcome of what our mission is all about. It is helping create the ongoing efforts of a thriving community through addressing barriers, through people, programs, partnerships, and opportunities. So before I transition to get into the awesome work, the impact that this has had on our teens and in our community and in our neighborhoods, I'd like to show a quick video to give everybody perspective.
Oh, she did, okay.
Serve Dubuque exists for teens. It exists to impact a group of individuals with amazing ideas. Serve Dubuque with the Multicultural Family Center was built to engage Dubuque teens in opportunities to get out into their community and to learn more about civic engagement, learn more about civic participation, and health literacy. Mentors are guiding them and planning those activities. Our program is a 6-week program. We go out each day, engage in a service project, and then we do some reflection on that project. Here at Eagle Point Park, we're coordinating and collaborating with Teen Resiliency, which is another teen group in the Dubuque community based out of Office of Sustainability.
It's been really fun getting to know people and working with people that also care about the environment and just cleaning up, making things look pretty.
Together, we're tackling 2 projects, working on trail maintenance and then a restoration program.
This program is important to me because it gives us a chance to clean up the environment and give fresh air and cleaner air to everybody, even animals, and just making it healthy all around.
These teens are building conversation skills out in the park where their community is at. They care about their community, they are interested in meeting new people and doing things together that benefit the community and themselves.
As you can see, you hopefully can understand why my heart just gets filled with gratitude. Our department is all about working together to continue to build a thriving community, again, through people, programs, partnerships, and opportunities. And so with that, I'm going to transition to Sarah, who really spearheaded this initiative in collaboration with the Board of Directors at the Multicultural Family Center to talk about those partnerships and to dive a bit deeper into the projects that we were able to engage in. Again, we heard from our community. We heard the feedback related to Eagle Point Park especially, and that was one of our sites that we really poured into alongside with our youth. So with that being said, Ms. Sarah Burnham.
Thanks, Antonio. So Media Services did an amazing job. Do I need to, tell the rest of the tale here? So good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff. I'm grateful to be here on a positive note. So how did we settle on Serve Dubuque, right? Antonio gave you a little bit of background. Typically in the summer, we have 10 AmeriCorps members and 3 full-time members that are serving our teen population at the Multicultural Family Center and amongst various other locations in the city of Dubuque, Hillcrest, Carnegie, Dubuque Community Schools through the school year, and various throughout the 25 years of the grant and other programs and partnerships. So what to do when that pivot needed to happen, right? When things change, we had to pivot. So, we knew that we had a few staff, right? I'm grateful to be able to stay in my role, just in a different capacity and kind of imagine with Antonio and our department what this would look like. And the loss was apparent to me with teens. So we talked about service projects. We talked about how we can impact the community because that's a part of what we do. But it was always that underlying, how do we keep our teens involved in this programming? And so we looked at the Summer Teen Empowerment Program. And we had to make that difficult decision because it was powered by 10 people, and we only had a few people. So we took that framework, right, and we focused on teen development and engagement, okay? So with a shorter planning timeline than we expected, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We used some of those same principles and framework. Communication with the Dubuque Community School District confirmed that we were able to use the 21st century Iowa academic standards, and that was part of the framework of the STEP program. And we focused specifically on that, making sure we added that for the high school credit, right? Members that went through teens that went through this program, 100% are eligible for their high school credit as a result of their service. So 21st century standards, we've got civic literacy, technology, health literacy, financial, employability skills. So we looked at the city council goals and priorities and started planning projects that could drive civic participation with teens and engagement, because we couldn't do everything in a short planning timeline in 6 weeks. So we chose to focus on civic and health literacy with those goals in mind, because what we know about research with volunteerism and service is that it feels good, right? There's some chemical in the dirt. We literally stuck our fingers in the dirt, right? So with support, like Antonio mentioned, from the MFC board and a Fortrex financial sponsorship, we had our framework and we were ready to start visiting new places and serving. So we took the Jewel, we took the Regional Transportation Authority, and that's where service and learning happened. So again, that's civic participation and civic literacy. They're understanding how their city works. They're understanding city projects that are being focused on. They're understanding connections with organizations and how they play into our city government and our city and community. And we traveled to all these places. So the Dubuque Regional Humane Society, they were cleaning and organizing. I know they got to play with some kittens. I know that happened, because you don't leave volunteerism without that. Then they came back, and the City of Dubuque Animal Control talked with them about, okay, what happens when our strays and our pets get lost, and how does that connection happen with the Regional Humane Society? We picked up trash, and we tested water quality while learning about mussels and species at the National River Museum. They have other opportunities to go down there when they're visiting the museum and clean up in that area as well, because we know the water will bring that trash right into our port. We pulled weeds, we cleared fallen limbs, we reopened trails at Eagle Point Park. We supported a small business whose owner needed a few extra hands to support farm-to-table meals at City Girl Farming. We also talked about how community grants can support small businesses in our community, right? Because that's a part of what our city processes are. We took them to the landfill, which I learned, you're not supposed to call it a dump. It's a landfill, right? So we took them and talked about, how they can take that message of recycling forward to their families and reduce some of that load in our environment. There were several occasions where we walked to local parks, and we're cleaning up trash along the way. We're wearing the high-vis vests. We had trash bags and grabbers. And that's honestly where we got a lot of unsolicited community feedback, like, wow, what are you doing here? Like, we're picking up trash as a part of our service program. And they're like, thank you. So the community was seeing it happen, which was also healthy for our teens to see their impact, right? Because that's one of those 21st century standards. How can we be a part of our community and make a change? And then one of the last projects I listed was City of Dubuque Engineering for safe routes and mobility. We met several times with the teens. Actually, Justine did all the work because we wanted to show them how their input and how the next steps will happen with a project like Safe Routes. And Justine will explain that shortly. So we wanted to thank all our partners. Sorry, go back to that. Thank all of those partners, right, that were helping provide opportunities for their community and the teens to serve. So impact, data can be a compelling way to see the impact of our service, right? We got a few comments from some community members, and that has an impact, but we also can show an impact with our numbers and what the value of their time was. So we had 60 hours served by each student. 14 students, 100% of our students were completing the program. We had a few that weren't able to continue, they moved, kind of thing. So in total, 840 hours invested in the community. So you can see the financial investment was donated by Fortrex, and that provided a stipend for our teens. Now we're getting employability skills. We have the job-like mentality, right? And then you can see when you take the value of the hours multiplied by the value of volunteer time, that impact of just over $25,000 of service to the community. So when you add those two together, we've got $32,000 that these teens have promoted in our community and given back. With that, I want to invite Justine up to kind of talk through the project of Safe Routes. When you're thinking about all this passion that Justine has for engineering and safe routes, what that was poured into our students to understand the process of how we identify problems, how we work on solutions. Those were happening day after day with our teens. Yes, they were going out in the community and serving those projects. They were also think tanking this idea of safe routes and giving us real world examples, because our mobility in the city isn't just our vehicles, and these young individuals don't have driver's license yet. So it's on foot, it's on mopeds, it's on bicycles, and their insight was invaluable, right? Because we might not see that without them. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Justine to explain the Safe Routes project that we did with the teens.
Gosh, I'm not even up here yet and I'm already blushing. Thank you. Good evening. I can't believe that I got the opportunity to do this. This was so fun. But I'm basically going to talk about a little bit of what we did, and like Sarah explained, we met several times, so there's going to be kind of a lot of information because we talked about a lot of things. So let me just get into it. So with those couple of sessions, I'm really excited to say that this was a different part of my professionalism and my passion that I was able to get into, and very creatively, but also pushing people. I don't know if anybody has any teenagers, but they are rough. But it was very invigorating and very exciting to be a part of that conversation. So with this, looking at these questions that I kind of have on our slide, we did an introductory session to say what I want out of you, out of this program. So putting down that traffic roll with that civic lens was the overall goal. But I wanted to make sure that we were thinking about new ways to create safe spaces that they have experienced, whether they're walking, biking, driving with their parents, taking the bus, all of those things. So this introduction was a broader sense of what my responsibilities are with construction and mobility and even enforcement within the right-of-way. So having them have that broad understanding of kind of the cradle-to-grave method of how something can go in our traffic operations center, in our traffic realm of things. How does this get installed and implemented to be maintained? So with all of that information, I was able to then meet up with them a couple times after this, but met up with them and we talked about areas throughout the whole city that they wanted to speak on. You know, this is them in the streets, on the stairs. I talked about stairs, which I rarely get to do. It was so exciting. Crosswalks and sidewalks and honestly giving some work over to Public Works about road repair. And so we had this huge brainstorming session that ended up being a consensus on 3 things, because we only have so much time, we only have so many resources. So that brainstorming session was really getting down to the ideas that affect them and what they want to see changed, and that they have the opportunity to change it because we can help them with that. So what I have here in these red circles is the consensus was Wacker Drive, like getting over to Kennedy Mall. The second one was Mers Streets, which is connection up to Jefferson Middle School. And then we also have West 17th and Main, which is an intersection right by Jackson Park. So with that, I'm gonna start off with Wacker Drive. This was unfortunately a project that we just spoke about, that we had discussions about, but we did not handle any traffic collection or data collection because I also wanted a hands-on approach. So I will get to that soon. But we did talk about this of the existing infrastructure that we currently have, which is kind of nothing with sidewalks and at least crossability as a pedestrian. So this was something that they were interested in. I'm glad kids are still going to the mall. That was my thing, so I was fine with that. So with that discussion, even though we didn't have any data to look at and get them kind of in the my chair situation, we still had inquisitive minds to take the resources that they have gathered from this program and the network that they've created so that they can maybe push this to you individuals, and that could be maybe a priority in the future. So letting them kind of understand that process is also as important. Just because we can't do something about it now doesn't mean we can't do something about it later. The next one was Mers Street. This is a huge hill that leads up to Jefferson Middle, as I stated, and the concern here that the kids were talking about was parking, that there was so much parking on this street that they felt unsafe for kids going to and from school. So we did have the opportunity to collect some data here with the help of our traffic intern. He placed that down for us and we were able to look at that, those numbers. We were looking at speeds as they were going up and down the hill, because that's a safety component, and also with how many people are actually using this, so volumes as well. With this, the group kind of had a realization that with the existing infrastructure, we couldn't take away more parking because there's already a restriction on the south side of the road here. So we probably couldn't take that away, and that there would need to be future conversations about traffic calming and understanding what's happening with Jefferson and that whole school district conversation. Because I was very honest with them. And lastly, our very triumph project, which I'm very happy about, is the intersection at 17th and Main. So here on this photo, we have our traffic counters. We had 8 of them placed on each stretch of this intersection. So as we walked, because I also wanted to give them the context of, hey, we want to do a field opportunity, but we also want it in our area. So where you guys, where your head's at? So this was an intersection that came up and has come up in the past of having issues being a pedestrian crossing this. There's some crashes at this intersection, and to me, it's a little funky. Even in my role, it's a little funky. The minor street doesn't have a stop sign, which is just weird, but it is what it is. And we've realized that when we went out there, we placed those counters, and we have 4,000 vehicles per day, so that's 2,000 each direction on West 17th Street. And that is the stop-controlled intersection. So then we weren't able to get speeds because they're obviously stopping, so that was the volume piece that we wanted. And we wanted to look at Main and Madison as people are going up and down the hill and how fast they are going up and down that hill. So they don't have a stop sign. It might be a little unsafe in winter conditions. So how fast are they really going? We're seeing here that uphill is 30 to 34 miles an hour, and downhill is a little bit slower towards the 30 mile per hour end in a limited 25. So with that information, we finished our placements, and as we're sitting out there, we're also like, what else can we determine from this intersection? Well, that big building that is housing a lot of people and their families, we can't see around that building. So how can we make it safe for those people that are going eastbound at that stop sign to determine if they can go or not because there are vehicles coming down the hill? You either got to gun it or you have to wait for another person across from you to be like, oh, I'm going, you should go. We had a lot of interactive conversations like that. So as we finished that up, we saw this. They saw it. They experienced it, and we brought that back to the classroom when we had that data picked up. So with that data, they've determined that we probably should have some type of warning. Warning is normally yellow. We kind of went that route, and this is where we kind of came up with our solution. That there would be some sort of warning sign. There's not a lot of detail here, but there is a warning sign for those eastbound vehicles that would be crossing the intersection that would get tripped or triggered by a sensor that would be for the people coming down the hill. And this is very similar to the warning signs that we have out on Highway 20 by Menards as you're coming into town that says be prepared to stop. It would be something similar of that nature. We didn't get too much in the details. I was just so proud that we came up with a solution. So as we continued on with that, we wanted to also make sure that they understand, how does this get installed? We could just do an idea. This is the idea. This is great. But how do I get this? How does someone like me get somebody to install that and then maintain it? So how do we get that installed? How am I paying for something like this? Or is there something else that needs to happen first? Is there other priorities in this area that I need to consider? Does this solve the whole problem? Ladies and gentlemen, this group of teenagers came up with a warning system, was also very safe and engaged during our whole project, and they basically said, they came up with the realization as well that if those improvements were put together, that the traffic calming elements or any crosswalks or crashes the crosswalks would be a great improvement and crashes would be reduced. And that is basically just me handing them all of this data and them having a safe space to have that conversation. It was awesome. It was very enlightening. So I'm glad that we were able to do something that is so close to them, but also to us. And we had the opportunity to share that information with them, and that since they are also younger in their high school career, they might have the opportunity to see it before they graduate and decide what they want to do with their lives. So I appreciate Sarah and her team giving me the opportunity to do this with this group, and that they were so respectful and engaged throughout this whole process. They actually gave me compliments, which was even better. So thank you. I will let Sarah finish.
So to paint the picture from start to finish, right? We're showing you this 2D thing, right? And we're telling you what was happening. But what Justine was relaying in the beginning of what's the problem, how do we affect change, how do we participate in our civic government and our community, that's the take home. And we said it in the video, Justine said it, I'm gonna say it again. Teens have amazing ideas. Just long pause there. We have to listen. And so this program is an opportunity for us to listen. It's an opportunity for us to serve with them and serve alongside of them. We are all public servants here, and that's the uniqueness of bringing the teens into this space. Outcomes are pretty important. I think that service is the number one, civic participation and the connection. They were leading the activities. They were giving me ideas. I was connecting them with resources. That's it, right? I'm just a liaison. They were doing all the things. And then I was drawing them back in. How is this part of our city goals and priorities? How does this happen in our government? Council's going through city council goals and priorities now, and we talk through that process with them. Of course, they were getting service hours, they were getting a stipend, there's employability skills in that. Again, back to that 21st century academic standards and how they end out in our communities, hopefully in this community or whatever community they decide. And then all of our students all of our participants were eligible for that high school credit based on their service hours and their time and reflection with these projects. So we were going out and sweating a lot. I'm not going to lie, that we have teens here that will tell you that. They were also like, when do we get to go inside? Please take us inside, and so we'd come back and we'd do the reflection inside. We'd talk through these civic principles and those standards and the projects and how can we affect change? What are your ideas? So a lot of great things were happening. I won't read all of these, but these are the reflections, samples of their reflections. They were noticing things, unsafe conditions. That's the negative one that we have to listen to, right? We had a kid tell me that now that I've pulled weeds for City Girl Farming, I got my own set of gloves and I'm doing it around my house and on my sidewalk, right? We had I love this one. Participating in trash cleanup is a surprisingly effective way to improve both physical and mental well-being. How smart. I did not script that. I can show you the journal entry, super cool. You see a community member's insight, great job, thanks for cleaning up. That was often what we'd hear as we were walking back from these projects. We rode the Jewel, we were here, people were asking us, what are you doing, right? People assumed things, but we're like, no, we're part of this new service program, right? So with that, the students reflected on their service throughout the 6 weeks. That was part of their high school credit. That was part of the civic literacy and health literacy and the concepts of high school credit. I do want to shout out to Caitlin Daniels and Diamond, the two in the front. They were integral mentors and supporting those students and the day-to-day of what we did this summer with the teens. Again, reiterating what Antonio said, we couldn't do this without the MFC board, without Fortrex sponsor, without everybody involved, Justine, and the most important part, we couldn't do this without the teens, period. So thank you to the teens. If you're watching, where's the camera? Thank you to the teens, right? We have a teen here tonight that wanted to come start to finish. I'm not going to make anybody stand up and talk in front of you because I get nervous doing it. So I don't want to make anybody do that that doesn't want to. But again, thank you to the teens and thank you for listening tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, Sarah, thank you very much. And Justine, too. We don't have a whole lot of time for questions here. We actually have another work session that starts at 5:45. But I do want to say a few words, if you don't mind. And I don't think I have any questions for you necessarily. But talk about making lemonade out of lemons. My gosh. We were all sitting here in April, essentially just lamenting, near tears, about the fact that we were not going to be able to have the same programming this year that we've had for years for our teens in this community, doing some really cool stuff. And instead of just saying, oh, okay, oh well, can't do it, you went back to the drawing board and figured something out, and it was awesome. This is awesome. And it makes me think of, in my first couple of years when I was teaching at Loras, we read a book that was like an all-school read, that everybody read it at the same time. And we had several classes that we taught on this. And it was a book called Acts of Faith by a guy named Eboo Patel. And Eboo Patel wrote about, it was specifically talking about how the United States is a pluralist country, you got to bring people together. And he talked a lot about religion. That's to be expected, I think, in a book called Acts of Faith. But it was more than that. And the thing that really stuck out to me in that, and what I carried forth from that lesson that I learned in reading it with college students, was the power of service and what that actually means in a community. And the ability to be able to bring people together despite anything that might be pulling them apart from each other, whether it's beliefs or Hawkeyes versus Cyclones, or whatever it is, the things that pull us apart, and the ability to be able to come together just by serving in the same way. You're doing the same thing. You're connected through that thing that you're doing. And what I saw here was a connection to what is the larger context of what our city is, and how much these students that you worked with got to see that, but how much we need that for everybody. It's not just something that is only for teens. What you showed us here is a lesson that I think we all can take forward and say, as a community, if we were to serve together in this way, how could we make some of these places better? How could we learn some better practices? How could we learn new lessons from each other? And I think that's what I appreciate most about what you just did. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next year. Either way, there's going to be a lot of fun stuff. So thank you for everything that you're doing. So Sarah, Justine, Antonio, we appreciate it. Thank you. Everybody wants to clap for you. I can tell. So yeah. Sometimes you can just feel the applause coming. You just got to let it happen. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. So that was our first work session. That was on Serve Dubuque. So